Hello everybody, this is Lara from Pure Elliott Wave with a very quick update for you for Bitcoin, Ethereum and XRP. Bitcoin's moving a bit lower, it's got weak range and slightly higher volume, but the range is weak. There's a bearish upper wick, so I expect we're probably going to see a bit of a follow through in the following session for Thursday, the 1st of February, moving lower. Look for support now at 41,100. There's resistance just a little bit below 44,700 that's been reached a couple of days ago. Overall, I expect it's very likely that this low for the 23rd of January is likely to be intact, and I expect that the next bull run is in its very early days for Bitcoin. Volume is pushing price lower for the last couple of sessions, but overall volume is still declining, so it's not particularly strong. I wouldn't expect too much more downward movement. ADX is declining, the DX lines are whipsawing. There's no clear trend at the daily time frame. RSI is neutral, as is money flow. Using a model of stochastics plus support and resistance, because ADX says that there's no clear trend, an upward swing may have possibly ended and a downward swing may be beginning, so expect a little bit more downward movement for price to get down to support. When it gets there, depending on what ADX says, we may expect the downward swing to end, but if ADX says there's a new trend, then I'll revert to using ADX, RSI and money flow. This is the main Elliott Wave count for Ethereum, and it expects that Ethereum is most likely within a third wave at 5 degrees and it's very early days. I will expect, if we see a deeper pullback for Ethereum, for price to find support at the lower edge of this channel. I've drawn from the low of the 12th of October to the low of the 23rd of January this year, and this area may provide support. Technicals on the daily for Ethereum, at the low there is a bullish hammer candlestick pattern. Price has found resistance about 2,400, it's moving slightly lower. Look for next support about 2,100. This area of resistance at 2,400 was quite strong, but it was weakened with this break and again with this break, but it has again provided an area of resistance and initiated a pullback. Price doesn't move in a straight line. There will be pullbacks and consolidations along the way. The last completed downward session does not have push from volume compared to the previous upward session, so downward movement is weak. I expect this to be a small counter trend movement within a new upward trend most likely. ADX is still declining for Ethereum. There's no clear trend at this time frame. RSI is neutral, as is money flow. Stochastics has moved up from oversold up through neutral. Price has bounced up from support and is overall moving higher. Expect overall stochastics to continue higher to overbought and price overall to continue higher to resistance simultaneously. Don't expect them to move in a straight line. Price within consolidations is typically choppy and overlapping. This is my main Elliott Wave count for XRP. It considers a zigzag continuing lower for intermediate wave 2 to end in a more normal depth from 80 to 90% the length of intermediate 1, which would be 0.40954 to 0.34447. Very common for big second wave corrections for cryptocurrencies to be very deep, and when they do that, they absolutely convince us that the bull run is not going to continue, and they do it right before a third wave takes off. So just keep in mind the psychology of that. I've seen a lot of bearishness and a lot of complaints about XRP. The bigger picture for the chart for XRP is still overall bullish. I still see enough strength and upward movement off last major lows to expect that XRP is most likely in the early stages of a new bull run. You'll find to disagree with me, but just keep in mind the psychology of how second waves work. This wave count's rather bearish, so I'm going to give you a new wave count for XRP today. This wave count sees A as an impulse, B as a zigzag over here, and C beginning there. So if C begins here, then it started with a series of 1, 2, 3 and now 4 overlapping second waves, so it has to move through the middle of a third wave and have 1, 2, 3, 4 fourth wave bounces or consolidations along the way down toward the target depth. But what if B didn't end here? What if B was a regular contracting triangle or regular barrier triangle? The BD trend line looks quite flat, really. This is a slightly forced. The E wave of the triangle isn't too bad though. The problem with triangles, and this is one reason why I say they're so tricky, the problem with triangles is they can also be read as a series of overlapping first and second waves. It's exactly how my first wave count sees this movement, but it could also have been a triangle. So if B ends here, then C begins here. C could be an ending contracting diagonal. C could move lower. It still does need to move lower for this wave wave count as well, but it might end just a little bit below 0.4456, so it avoids a truncation. C could be an ending contracting diagonal. Now we have a zigzag for 1, a zigzag for 2, and now this wave down here from this high to this low fits beautifully as a 5-wave impulse. This could be wave A. Now we have B and we need C to move below the end of A. It could have ended here, but I expect it should move a little bit lower. It could have ended here though. It's most likely to move a bit lower. And now we have a really good 535 unfolding lower for a zigzag for minute 3 within the ending contracting diagonal. The price point that invalidates both of these is the same, 0.6236. We see a new high by any amount at any time frame above that price point, then the bearishness in these wave counts is invalidated, and I'll expect that intermediate 2 was over earlier and that we're seeing the start of a new bullish run. Very quickly, technicals for XRP. The candlestick complete for the 31st of January is forming another hammer candlestick pattern. So now we've got a series of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hammer candlesticks around the same area of support. I keep saying when you see a cluster of these bullish reversal patterns, take a lot of notice of this. This suggests that the bearishness in my Elliott Wave counts could be wrong. We might not be seeing much more downward movement from XRP. Overall, volume is moving lower as price moves sideways, but for the short term, some push in volume. We could see a bit more downward movement for the next session. The last signal given from on-balance volume was bearish. The follow-through from that could have been complete by now. We could see a bit more downward movement. ADX tells us there is a downward trend. It is now extreme, but not yet very extreme, so there's still further room for it to run. RSI is not oversold, but it's kind of close, so not that much more room before downward movement reaches extreme oversold conditions. And money flow is pretty close to oversold. So for XRP, I'd expect the downward trend to be ending sooner rather than later, and that's why I tried to develop a bearish Elliott Wave count that expects a sooner than longer end to this downward movement. That's it for me today with your update. I hope everyone's having a lovely day.